The silence in the Moon Garden nightclub is unusual. There are no people here during the day. No music. It's empty. Only the dim light through the closed blinds draws long streaks across the floor. The air smells sweetly of last night's cocktails, cleaning fluid, and dust. Han Jisung walks through the main hall. His steps are quiet. His black shoes make a soft thud on the dark floor. He glances around. His eyes search for every little detail. A speck of dust on the table, an uneven chair, a stain on the bar counter. He is the master of this place. Every detail here is his responsibility. His hair, dark and straight, is neatly trimmed. It doesn't move when he tilts his head to look under the sofa. His face is calm. There is no emotion on it. He is simply working, checking. He finds a small shard of glass under the nearest sofa. From a wine glass, Jisung bends down and picks it up with his fingers. He looks at the shard. Someone didn't clean it up properly. He puts the shard in his jacket pocket. He'll ask the manager about it later. Jisung's mind is full of various things. He needs to arrange new drinks for the bar. He needs to call that DJ who's asking for more money. He needs to check the electricity bill. He keeps it all in his head. Numbers, agreements, problems. He moves on. He passes an empty dance floor. The mirrored walls reflect his lonely figure. He looks like a shadow in this large, empty space. Jisung walks out of the main hall into a narrow utility corridor. It smells different here. Stronger chemicals, cleaning products. He peers through the half-open kitchen door. It's dark and clean inside. Everything is in its place. He nods to himself. It's all tidy here. Then his gaze falls on the end of the hallway. There's a door there that leads to a small storage room. Buckets, mops, and rags are kept there. This door must always be closed. It's in the rules. But now the door is ajar. It's only a few centimeters open. Jisung frowns. It's a violation. A small one, but it's a violation. Disorder starts with little things like that. Someone was careless. Perhaps the janitor. He'll make a remark. He goes to the door to close it. He already reaches out for the handle, but his hand freezes in midair. He hears a sound, quiet, muffled, like a sob. Then another one. Jisung perks up. He listens. From behind the half-open door comes the sound of crying. Someone is crying, quietly but clearly. Jisung stands and stares at the crack in the door. His face remains expressionless, but thoughts are already racing through his head, crying in his club. This is a problem. Problems need to be solved, fast. He doesn't like it when things don't go according to plan. He doesn't knock. He just pushes the door. The door opens silently. Inside is a small room. Shelves reach to the ceiling. On the shelves are jars, bottles, and bags of detergent. Mops and buckets stand in the corner. The air is thick with the smell of chemicals. A girl sits on a box in the middle of the room. She's wearing a blue work uniform. There's no badge on her chest. Her face is hidden in her hands. Her shoulders shake slightly. She has very bright hair, red, almost copper. It's pulled back into a bun, but a lot of strands have come loose. They fall onto her neck and arms. She's all curled up into a ball. She hears the sound of the door opening. She looks up sharply. Her eyes are wide open. They are full of tears and fear. She sees Jisung. She recognizes him. She understands who is in front of her. The horror on her face only intensifies. She tries to jump up, but stumbles. She wipes her face with the back of her hand. Her movements are abrupt, panicked. "I'm sorry. I just..." Her voice breaks. She can't speak. Jisung doesn't enter the room. He stands in the doorway. He fills it with himself. He looks at the girl. His gaze is calm, searching. He waits for her to calm down a bit, but she doesn't. She tries to hold back her sobs, but she's having trouble. Jisung decides not to wait. "Why are you crying?" he asks. His voice is even, firm. He doesn't shout, but his voice rings clear in the quiet room. The girl flinches at his words. She looks at him, then looks away. She can't hold his gaze. "It's nothing. Everything's fine," she mumbles. "That's not true," Jisung says, still in the same even tone. "You're crying in the office while you're working. Explain why. Now." There's no anger in his voice, only a demand. A business-like cold demand. He speaks the way he's used to speaking to his subordinates, briefly, clearly, without unnecessary words. The girl looks at him again. She sees his stony face. She sees that he won't leave. She sees that he's waiting for an answer. And this makes her speak. "I haven't been paid," she says quietly. Her voice trembles. She lowers her eyes again. For a long time, Jisung is silent. He waits. 3 months. she exhales. First they said it was late, then they said there were money problems. They promised to pay next month, but next month they only paid half. They said I wasn't working hard enough. She falls silent, gathering her strength. I try. I do everything. I clean the hall, the toilets, the kitchen, everything. But they still say I'm slow, that I can't cope, and they don't give me money. She looks up at him. There are tears in her eyes. And today, this morning, the manager told me that there won't be any salary this month, that the club has no money, and that I now owe the club. You owe it? Jisung asks again. His voice doesn't change. Why do you owe it to the club? The girl, Kennedia, closes her eyes. It's hard for her to talk about it. It was a few weeks ago, she begins. I was asked to dust the wine room, where the expensive bottles are kept. I was doing everything very carefully, but in the corner, behind the rack, there was one bottle, alone, on the floor. I didn't notice it. I brushed it with the mop. She pauses to swallow the lump in her throat. She fell and broke. Wine spilled all over the floor. She opens her eyes. They are filled with horror from the memories. The manager came, Mr. Garcia. He yelled at me, said this bottle was very old, very expensive, a collector's item. He said its price, she gulps, is more than I'll earn in 2 years. And now this debt is hanging over me. They say they'll deduct it from my paycheck, but that they're not paying me anyway, so I'll never pay it off. Never! Her voice breaks into a sob again. She clenches her fists. Her nails dig into her palms. Jisung is still standing in the doorway. He's listening. He doesn't interrupt. I don't have a contract, Kennedia continues, almost whispering. She speaks to the floor. When they hired me, I just showed up. They told me, start working. I didn't sign any papers, no documents. Now they say I'm nobody here, that I can't prove anything, that I have no rights. She raises her head. There is despair in her eyes. They said that if I leave or complain to anyone, they'll sue me for this bottle. I don't have money for a lawyer. I have no one here. I have no one to help me. I'm trapped. I don't know what to do. She falls silent. The room is silent. The only sounds are her uneven breathing and the ticking of a clock in the distance. Jisung doesn't move. He looks at this girl, at her red hair, at her work uniform, at her eyes full of tears and fear. His mind is working. He analyzes her every word. He puts together the facts. 3 months of unpaid bills, an expensive broken bottle, no contract, the manager's threats. His face doesn't change. Not a muscle moves. But inside, everything is already clear. This isn't just an employee's complaint. It's a system of deception and pressure. And this system is operating in his club, right under his nose. The small storage room is silent. It smells of chemicals. Kennedia can be heard trying to breathe evenly. Han Jisung doesn't move. He stands in the doorway, looking at the crying girl. But he no longer sees her tears. His brain has shut off all emotion. He works like a machine. He's processing the information. Fact 1. The employee hasn't been paid for 3 months. Fact 2. She damaged the club's property. She's been given a huge bill. Fact 3. She doesn't have an employment contract. Fact 4. The manager, Mr. Garcia, is exploiting this. He's created a debt trap. Jisung mentally checks these facts. He knows how his business works. The payroll is allocated. The money is there. So someone is holding it back, or embezzling it. A broken bottle. Jisung remembers that collection. The expensive ones are kept in a special display case, behind glass, not on the floor in the corner. Boxes or inexpensive lots might be on the floor, not collectible wine. That's a mismatch. The lack of a contract is a serious violation. It only benefits one party, the one who doesn't want to pay. All the pieces are falling into place. This isn't an accident. It's a scheme. And this scheme is operating at his club, under his name. The man he trusted with day-to-day management is deceiving his people, stealing, and intimidating them too. Jisung's face, only cold concentration. He's already made his decision. It appeared in his head instantly, as soon as the picture became clear. Now he needs to act, quickly and without further ado. Jisung steps back, making room. Stand up, he says. His voice is still flat, indifferent. Kennedia looks at him, confused. Her eyes are full of fear. She thinks she's about to be fired, or worse. Follow me, he adds curtly. He doesn't wait for an answer. He's already turning and walking down the corridor. His steps are confident, quick. Kennedia freezes for a second. Her heart is pounding. Where is he taking her? What's going to happen now? But she can't disobey. This is her boss. She jumps up from the crate, hastily straightens her work uniform, wipes the last of the tears from her face, and practically runs out of the storage room. She follows him, trying to keep up. He doesn't look back. He simply walks forward down the empty corridor. They pass the kitchen, past the empty main hall. Jisung turns into another part of the building. The hallway is wider here. The walls are paneled in dark wood. The floor is softly carpeted, muffling their footsteps. He approaches the tall wooden door. He takes a keycard from his pocket and presses it against the black panel. The lock clicks softly. Jisung opens the door and steps inside. He doesn't look back again. Canadia pauses at the threshold. She's never been here. She didn't even know the owner's office was here. She peers inside. The room is large and spacious. A huge window covers the entire wall, overlooking the city. The midday sun floods the room with light. A massive wooden table stands in the center. It's almost empty. On it are only a computer, a notepad, and a single pen. Behind the table is a tall leather chair. Along one wall stands a sofa and two armchairs. A few simple black and white photographs hang on the walls. Nothing superfluous. Everything is expensive, stylish, and understated, just like Jisung himself. Come in. His voice comes from the depths of the room. He's already standing behind his desk. Canadia takes a hesitant step inside. The door closes quietly behind her. The click seems very loud to her. She feels even more out of place. Her dirty work uniform, her eyes puffy from crying, all of it looks alien in this clean, luxurious room. She doesn't dare come closer. She stands by the door, her head down. Jisung sits down in his chair. He doesn't offer her a seat. He picks up the phone on the table. It's not a mobile, but a stationary phone with large buttons. He dials a short extension. 2 rings. Garcia, my office, right now, he says into the phone. His voice isn't any louder than usual, but there's a hint of iron in it. He doesn't wait for an answer. He hangs up. Then he looks up at Canadia. Come to the table, he says. Canadia approaches slowly. She stops 2 steps from the massive tabletop. Her hands are shaking. She hides them behind her back. Jisung doesn't look at her. He's looking at his office door. He's waiting. His face is calm, but the tension in the room is heavy. It's pressing down on Canadia. She's afraid to move. Several minutes pass. They seem like an eternity to her. There's a knock on the door. 2 quick, nervous knocks. Come in, Jisung says. The door opens. A man enters the office. It's Mr. Garcia, the club's manager. He's middle-aged, wearing an expensive suit, but his tie is slightly loose. He has a worried expression. He quickly notices Canadia at the desk, and his eyes narrow. For a second, irritation and anxiety flash in them, but he quickly regains his composure. Sam, he says, bowing his head respectfully. You called me. We were just checking the new batch of glasses, and there's a slight problem with— Close the door, Jisung interrupts him calmly. Garcia freezes, then turns and closes the door. He approaches the desk. He stands on the other side, opposite Jason. Canadia is between them, slightly to the side. She feels the manager's heavy gaze on her. This employee, Jisung begins, nodding toward Canadia without looking at her, reports that she hasn't been paid for 3 months. What can you say? Garcia feigns surprise and mild offense. Oh, it's a misunderstanding, Sam. Of course, there are some delays in payments, everyone knows. Tax audits, bank transfers are delayed. I explained it carefully to the team. And as for Miss Rose, he gives her a cold look. She, unfortunately, has a debt with the establishment. A serious debt. She broke a collectible bottle of Chateau Laberge 1982 wine, worth over $20,000. Naturally, payments are suspended until the damage is paid. This is standard procedure. He speaks confidently, almost convincingly. He has clearly been preparing for this conversation. Jisung listens silently, then he slowly turns his monitor so Garcia can see it. Show me, Jisung says. Show me this bottle of Chateau Laberge 1982 in the database. Its registration card, a photo, a proof of purchase. Now. Garcia's expression loses confidence for a second. Now? The system might be slow. I'd better prepare all the documents later and— Now, Jisung repeats. One word, quiet, but it leaves no options. Garcia freezes. He looks at Jisung's cold face, then at the monitor. He realizes there's no turning back. He slowly walks around the desk and sits down in the empty chair in front of the computer. His fingers tremble as he types his username and password. He logs into the accounting system. The club's database. He searches. Wine warehouse. Expensive items. He scrolls through the list. His movements become increasingly nervous. Jisung watches silently. He watches Garcia's fingers move. He watches him search for something that doesn't exist. Maybe it wasn't included in the general catalog. It was personal, Garcia mutters. That's enough, says Jisung. Log out. Garcia pulls away from the computer as if burned. His face turns pale. Jisung leans over the keyboard, his fingers flying quickly and precisely across the keys. He logs in with his own credentials. He opens more than just the warehouse database. He opens the financial reports, payroll reports for the past 6 months. He flips through them. His eyes quickly scan the numbers. Here's the column with payments to service personnel. The amounts are for the last 3 months, so the money was transferred to the payroll fund. But Canadia Rose isn't listed as a recipient at all. Her name isn't there. He opens a file with employee documents. There are 5 people on the list of cleaners. Canadia Rose is not among them. Jisung stares at the screen for a few seconds. Then he looks up at Garcia. Explain this, Jisung says. He doesn't raise his voice. He simply points at the monitor. The funds for salary payments have been allocated, but her name isn't on the list. She's not on the employee list. Where is the money earmarked for her position? Garcia is silent. Beads of sweat have appeared on his forehead. Jisung doesn't wait for a response. He opens other files, reports on petty expenses, household goods purchases. He sees strange discrepancies. Several items were purchased at inflated prices. Invoices were issued to shell companies. He opens the personnel history. He sees that many cleaners have come through over the past year. All of them quit quickly. The documents list different reasons, but the pattern is the same. Someone comes in, works without a contract, then they stop paying them, or they invent a debt and they leave, and the money allocated for their salary remains. Jisung leans back in his chair. He looks at Garcia. Everything has become perfectly clear. This is not a mistake. This is not a single violation. It is a system, an entire scheme. Mr. Garcia hired people without going through the official process. Their salaries went into a general fund, but he never paid them. He either pocketed them or siphoned them off through fictitious purchases. To keep employees from complaining, he invented debts for them. He intimidated them. He exploited their powerlessness. And he did it at Jisung's club, stealing his money and ruining the reputation of his business all the time. The office is dead silent. Even Canadia Ansanidity, who has been watching it all, holds her breath. She glances from Garcia's pale face to Jason's stony one. She realizes she's witnessed something very serious. The silence in the office grows loud. It weighs on Garcia. Jisung looks at the manager. There's no anger or disappointment in his gaze, only a cold, clear assessment, as if he's examining a broken machine that no longer works. You're fired, Jisung says. His voice rings out like a gong in the silence. Effective immediately. Garcia flinches as if he's been struck. Hansam, wait! He steps forward, his hands shaking. This can be explained. I can fix it. These were temporary measures. I wanted silence. Jisung cuts him off. He doesn't raise his voice. But those 2 words make Garcia stop mid-sentence. You stole from my business. You stole from my employees. You lied to me. None of this can be fixed. Jisung pauses, looking him straight in the eye. You have 10 minutes to exit the building. Leave your keys, security pass, and work phone at the security desk at the exit. All your personal belongings will be sent to you later. But my compensation, Garcia tries to say. You'll only receive your official salary for the last month you worked, Jisung says, and for the first time, there's a hint of ice in his voice. No bonuses, no severance pay. If you try to dispute this or take it to court, I'll hand over all the evidence I've collected today to the financial police. You have 10 minutes. Go. Garcia stands paralyzed. He looks at Jason, then at Canadia. His face is a mixture of anger, fear, and utter defeat. He understands that the game is lost. Completely. Without a chance. He turns sharply and almost runs out of the office. The door slams behind him with a dull thud. Jisung turns back to the computer. He makes a few quick clicks. He opens the internal incident database. He searches for the property damage record. He finds it. The entry was made 2 weeks ago. Under damaged item, it says, bottle of red wine, collectible. Value of damage, $22,000. Person at fault, K. Rose. Note, employee has accepted reimbursement obligations. Jisung looks at the entry. Then he deletes it. Not to the trash, but completely. He erases it from the database. It disappears from the screen. Then he opens the warehouse program. He searches for old invoices. He finds a purchase record for the very brand of wine Garcia mentioned, Chateau Laberge. He opens the document. The purchase price for one bottle, 1,200. Not 22,000, but 1,200. And it wasn't a vintage bottle from 1982, but a young wine from the current year. Jisung closes all the windows. He turns to Kennedia, who is still standing by his desk, not daring to move. There's no debt, he says simply. The price of the bottle was 20 times higher. It was part of the scheme. You don't owe anything. Kennedia looks at him silently, her lips slightly parted. She hears the words, but her brain refuses to process them. Debt. No? Jisung picks up his cell phone from the table. He dials a number. This is Jisung, he says when someone answers. I need the cashier and the head accountant in my office. Now. Kenedia's logout records in the archive. He sees her schedule. She worked practically every day, sometimes for 12 hours. He quickly creates a table in his head. Janitor's rate. Hours worked. For 3 months. 5 minutes later, 2 people quietly enter the office. A female accountant in a formal suit and a young cashier. They look tense. They saw Mr. Garcia run out of the building in a panic. Please calculate the full amount owed to Ms. Rose, Jason says, gesturing at Kennedia. 3 months, at the standard hourly rate for her position, plus overtime, if any. All legal. Now. The accountant nods. She approaches the computer on the adjacent conference table. The cashier stands nearby. They begin working. The only sounds in the room are the clicking of keys and the quiet whisper of numbers. Kennedia stands rooted to the spot. She watches these strangers count her money. Money she no longer expected. A few minutes later, the accountant approaches Jisung's desk with a piece of paper. Amount due, Hansam, she says quietly, and places the paper in front of him. Jisung looks at the number. He nods. Pay in cash. From the cash register. Now, he tells the cashier. The cashier quickly leaves. He returns 3 minutes later with a metal cash register. He counts out bills, stacks of them. He counts them again and carefully stacks them on the edge of Jisung's desk. That's right, Hansam, says the cashier. Okay, you can go, Jisung says to the accountant and cashier. They nod silently and leave the office, trying not to look at Kennedia. The door closes again. There's a neat stack of cash on the table. It's more money than Kennedia has ever handled in her entire life. Jisung points to the money. This is yours. Your salary. Everything you've earned, he says. Kennedia looks at the stack of bills, then at Jason, then back at the money. Her face is completely blank. There's no emotion in it. Too much has happened in the last hour. Her brain can't cope. First there was the closet. Despair. Then he brought her here. Then there was Garcia. Then he got fired. Then the debt disappeared. And now this. Money. Real money. She slowly, as if in a dream, reaches out. She touches the top bill. The paper is rough, real. And then it dawns on her. It all dawns on her at once. There's no debt. She's been paid. Everyone's been paid. Garcia's been fired. She's free. Tears begin to flow from her eyes again. But these are different tears. Not the quiet tears of despair from the pantry. These are hot, aching tears of relief. Powerful, all-consuming relief. Her body shakes with silent sobs. She covers her mouth with her hand, but she can't stop. She looks at Jisung through a haze of tears. She tries to say something. Thank you, or why? But no sound comes out. Only a quiet, happy cry. She stands in the middle of the luxurious office, in her dirty work uniform, her eyes red from crying, and her red hair untucked from its bun, crying over a stack of money. She feels the stone that has been weighing on her chest for 3 months finally crumble to dust. Kennedia cries for a few more minutes. She can't hold back the tears. She simply stands there, holding onto the edge of the table, letting her emotions flow. All the tension, all the fear, all the despair of the last few months comes pouring out. Han Jisung doesn't disturb her. He sits in his chair and waits silently. He looks not at her, but somewhere outside the window. He gives her time to recover. His face remains impassive. Gradually, the sobbing subsides. Kennedia takes a shuddering breath and wipes her face with her sleeve. She averts her eyes in shame, realizing she's lost control in the master's office. She tries to calm herself. She takes a deep breath. I'm sorry, she says hoarsely. I just... Jisung looks up at her. He interrupts her apology with a small wave of his hand. It doesn't matter. Then he asks a question. His voice sounds as calm and businesslike as if he were asking about the delivery schedule. What do you know about how this club works? He asks. About business in general. Kennedy freezes. She looks at him, not understanding. The question seems strange to her. Why is he asking this? She's a cleaner. She's just been crying. What could she possibly know? She waits for him to clarify, or to laugh, but he does neither. He simply waits for an answer. His look says, I asked a serious question. Answer. Kennedy looks down at her work boots. She collects her thoughts. She's not thinking about what he wants to hear. She's thinking about the truth. I saw everything, she begins quietly. From the inside. I started work before the club closed. I saw the last guests. I saw them leave. Then I cleaned up after them. I saw what they left on the tables and on the floor. What drinks they ordered most often. What appetizers they didn't finish. She pauses, thinking. Then I cleaned the bar. I saw how many bottles went away overnight. Which cocktails the bartenders made more often, and which less often. I saw how they counted change, how they sorted through deliveries. I cleaned the kitchen. I saw how the cooks cooked, how much food they threw out at the end of the night, which ingredients ran out the fastest. I dusted the manager's office. I saw the papers on the desk. I didn't read them, of course, but I saw them. Bills, invoices. I met the suppliers at the service entrance. They brought drinks, ice, food, cleaning supplies. I saw how they talked to the storekeeper. Sometimes I heard what they were talking about prices, about delays, and she looks up at him. Her voice grows a little confident. I know which corner has a leaky pipe after midnight. I know which door creaks and needs to be pushed with your shoulder. I know which refrigerator melts the ice the fastest. I know which light bulbs on the dance floor burn out the most, and we're always short of them. I've seen how everyone works. The security guards, the waiters, the bartenders, the coat check attendants. I've seen who works well and who slacks off, who's on time and who's always late, who smiles at the guests and who frowns. I know this place. From the basement to the roof. I'm here every day. I've seen it all. She finishes and looks down again. She said everything she thought. Honestly, Jisung listens. He doesn't interrupt. His face doesn't express surprise or approval, but he listens very carefully. Go on, he says when she falls silent. Details. Kennedy blinks. She hadn't expected him to want to hear more. Well, for example, she begins cautiously, ice deliveries. They arrive on Wednesday and Sunday mornings, but Sunday is our biggest weekday with the parties. And by Sunday evening, there's not enough ice. The bartenders start cutting corners, using less in cocktails. Guests notice, and on Wednesdays, there's too much ice. It takes up space, and half of it melts before it's used. Or cleaning the VIP areas. They clean them after each group of guests, but there's one area in the far corner. The manager rarely goes there. Sometimes they don't clean it thoroughly. I've seen it. There might be the smell of cigarettes or a stain on the couch. If important guests come over, that's bad. Also, the cloakroom. There's a girl there in the evenings, Layla. She works really fast, but sometimes she mixes up the numbers. Guests spend a long time looking for their things. They get angry, and in the morning, she always forgets to dust the shelves. I clean up after her. And the music. The loudest sound is always by the speakers to the right of the DJ. Young people like to stand there. But that's also where the dustiest spot is. The DJ sometimes sneezes from the dust, and dust is bad for the equipment. She says it all in simple terms. Without pretension, she simply states the facts, what she saw with her own eyes, the little things that no one pays attention to. But it's these little things that make up the entire operation of the establishment. Jisung continues to listen silently. He doesn't write things down, but he remembers everything. When Kennedy falls silent, the room falls silent again. But this time, it's a different silence. Not tense, but thoughtful. Jisung leans back in his chair. His gaze darts from Kennedy's face to the wad of money on the table, then out the window. Thoughts are working in his head, quickly and clearly, like gears in a precision machine. He just lost his manager, a man he trusted. This man turned out to be a thief and a cheat. He needs a new manager, a reliable one. He looks at the girl in front of him. She's honest. She's proven it by telling the truth, even when it was scary. She's observant. She sees details that others don't. She knows the business from the inside, from the bottom up. She knows all the problems firsthand. She's resilient, 3 months without a paycheck, and she's still here, working. She lacks management experience? Yes. But she has something more important: knowledge and attitude. She cares. She cares about her work, even when she's being deceived. And now she has motivation. Powerful motivation. He just gave her a chance, saved her. People who are given a chance often do their best work, out of a sense of duty, out of gratitude, out of a desire to prove they can do it. Jisung analyzes the risks. She might not cope. She might be afraid of the responsibility. The staff might not accept her. Anything is possible. But there are also advantages. She will become a symbol of change. Honesty. She knows all the little employees. She speaks their language. She can bring order from below. And he, Jisung, can guide her from above. Consult. Provide insurance. And that would be a powerful move. Not just hiring a new manager, but giving a chance to someone everyone thought was the last one standing. It would change the atmosphere at the club. It would show everyone honesty and hard work are valued here. There's room for growth here. An idea crystallizes in his head. It seems crazy at first glance, but the more he thinks about it, the more logic it makes. Business logic. He makes a decision. As always, quickly and definitively. Jisung focuses his gaze back on Kennedia. She's still standing in front of his desk, a little embarrassed by her long monologue. "Okay," he says. His voice breaks the silence. "I'm offering you the chance to own this club." The words hang in the air. Simple, clear, and completely unbelievable. Kennedia just looks at him. Her face is expressionless, empty. Her brain refuses to process this information. Did he say something? The owner? Of the club? It's a jumble of words. They don't form a coherent sentence. She blinks slowly. Once, twice, then it dawns on her. And her first reaction isn't joy, not amazement, but fear. Deep, primal fear. She thinks it's a trap, a test. He's testing her, wanting to see how greedy or stupid she is. Maybe this is some kind of weird loyalty test, or a cruel joke. She shakes her head, slowly at first, then faster. "No, you're joking," she blurts out in a hoarse whisper. "That's impossible. I'm just a cleaning lady." She looks at his face, searching for signs of mockery, play. But his face is serious, too serious. "Please, don't do this," she says, and panic is heard in her voice again. "I understand everything. I'll take the money and leave. I won't tell anyone anything. Honestly, you've already given me everything back. That's enough. I don't need anything else." She takes a step back, as if from a hot stove. Her instincts scream, "Run! This is too good to be true. It must be a scam." Jisung sees her panic. He understands her distrust. For her, the world is a place where people are always lying, where you can't trust good news. He raises his hand, gesturing for her to calm down. "This is not a joke, and it's not a test," he says in the same even, businesslike tone. "This is a business proposition. Think about it logically." He places his palms on the table. "You need a job, a reliable, honest job. You lost it this morning. I can give you a job, the best job. I need a manager for this club. Honest, reliable, someone who knows the business from the inside, someone who sees the problems, someone who cares. After today, I no longer trust outsiders for this position." He pauses briefly, letting her digest. "You meet those requirements. You're honest. You're observant. You know this place better than anyone, including me. You've proven that you can endure difficulties and keep working. Yes, you don't have management experience, but experience can be gained. It can be developed. And honesty and knowledge, that's something that not everyone gets. And not always." He looks at her directly. "I'm not asking you to just become an owner. You will own it legally. But at first, you will learn. You will make decisions here, under my supervision. I will be your consultant. I will help you understand the finances, the contracts, the strategy. You will do the work of a manager, and the status of owner will give you authority and full responsibility. It's beneficial for me. I will get an honest and motivated manager who will take care of my business as if it were his own. And it's beneficial for you. You will get a stable, well-paid job, a career, and a future. I'm offering you a partnership on business terms." He falls silent. He said everything clearly and distinctly, without emotion, only facts, reasons, logic. Now he waits for her answer. Kennedia listens to his explanation. The words reach her slowly, breaking through the thickness of mistrust and fear. A business proposal, partnership, logic, Her mind, accustomed to simple and often cruel solutions, begins to analyze. He's not talking about mercy. He's talking about profit, his profit, and her profit. It's a language she dimly understands. In her world, everything is built on interests. Only usually, interests were against her. And now he says their interests coincide. She looks at his face. It is open, but impenetrable. There is no mockery in his eyes, only calculation and anticipation. He is truly serious. Are you really suggesting this? Her voice still sounds uncertain, but the panic is receding, giving way to stupefaction. Yes, Ji-sung answers simply. And the time for decisions is limited. The club can't be left without leadership. He picks up the phone from the table again. He dials another number. This is Ji-sung. I need lawyers Mr. Kim and Miss Choi in my office in 15 minutes and prepare the standard package of documents for the transfer of ownership shares to a legal entity with the subsequent appointment of a manager. He pauses, briefly, listening to something. Yes, the basic option. Property number? Moon Garden. Bring everything with you. Thank you. He hangs up and looks at Canidia. My lawyers. They'll come and make sure everything is done properly. Legally. Canidia is silent. Lawyers. It sounds like something from another world. She's speechless. She simply nods, as if this isn't happening to her. The wait in the office drags on. Ji-sung dives back into his computer, checking something, typing. He acts as if the offer to hand over the club is a routine task, like ordering a new batch of glasses. Canidia hesitates to sit down. She stands by the table, next to the money. She glances from the wad of bills to his concentrated face. Her mind is a mess. She tries to imagine herself as the owner, but the picture doesn't come together. She sees only familiar corridors, a bucket, and a mop. 20 minutes later, there's a knock on the door. Two people enter, a man and a woman in formal business suits. They carry slim leather briefcases. They look collected and professional. They greet Ji-sung with a curt nod, cast a quick, unreadable glance at Canidia and her work uniform, but show neither surprise nor interest. Hansam, says the woman Miss Choi. We've prepared the necessary package as you requested. A standard agreement for the gratuitous transfer of 100% of the shares in the legal entity owning the Moon Garden asset to a new beneficiary, with subsequent appointment of the new beneficiary as the sole executive body, plus the accompanying powers of attorney and notifications for government agencies. Her speech sounds like a spell. Canidia doesn't understand half the words. Okay, says Jason. Explain each document to Miss Rose in simple terms. She will sign it. The lawyers turn to Canidia. Ms. Choi opens her briefcase and takes out a stack of papers. She places the first folder on the table in front of Canidia. Miss Rose, this is the main contract, she begins, her tone changing. It becomes explanatory, but still impersonal. According to this document, Mr. Han Ji-sung transfers to you all rights to the company that owns the Moon Garden nightclub. You become its sole owner. You pay nothing for this. This is a gratuitous transfer. Canidia looks at the paper, covered in tiny print. Her name is already printed there. Next to it is a blank space for a signature. This document, Ms. Choi continues, placing down the next paper, is a resolution of the sole participant, that is, you. In it, you appoint yourself the general director of this company. This gives you the right to manage the club in its name, hire staff, manage funds, sign contracts. She shifts another folder. And this is a power of attorney for our law firm. We will act on your behalf to register all changes with government agencies. You don't need to go anywhere. We'll take care of everything. Mr. Kim gently interjects. By law, you'll be considered acting manager for the first few months. It's a formality, but legally, from the moment you sign these papers, the club is yours. He points to the signature spots on each page, marked in yellow. Stickers. You need to sign here, here, and here, and put the date. Canidia looks at the papers. They smell of freshly printed papers and seriousness. She looks at Ji-sung. He looks at her and nods slightly. Go ahead. Her fingers tremble. She takes the pen that Ms. Choi holds out. The pen is heavy, metal. She feels its coldness. She signs the first page. Her last name. Her first name. Her signature looks awkward and uncertain next to the neat lines of printed text. She turns the page, signs again, and again. On every document, she signs and dates. Her hand moves automatically. She doesn't read the text. She trusts. Because she has no other choice. because he, Jisung, sits across from her and watches, and it seems like he's never made a mistake in his life. 10 minutes later, all the signatures are in place. The lawyers carefully gather the papers and check each one. Ms. Choi takes a small laminating machine from her briefcase and, in seconds, creates a temporary ID for Kennedia, a plastic card with her photo. They asked her to take it with her phone and then printed it out on a portable printer. Her name and the inscription, CEO/owner, Moon Garden. Your temporary pass and proof of status, Miss Rose, she says, handing over the card. Official documents will be ready in a few days. The lawyers say goodbye and quietly leave the office. The folder with the signed documents goes with them. All that remains is a thin copy for Kennedia, neatly bound in a blue folder, and a plastic card in her hand. She looks at the card, at her photo, at her name, at the strange, improbable title. She runs her finger along the laminated surface. It's real. Jisung looks at her. Legally, you are the owner of the Moon Garden Club from now on, he says. His voice is a statement of fact. All assets, all liabilities, all staff, all are now your responsibility. The words your responsibility strike a chord with a faint pang of fear, but strangely, they also make her feel real. This isn't a fairy tale. This is work, hard work. He didn't give her a toy. He handed over a burden. She looks up at him. I don't know what to do next, she admits honestly. Her voice is quiet, but no longer hysterical. That's okay, Jisung replies. No one expects you to become an expert on Monday. Right now, your main task is to process what happened. Jisung gets up from the table. He goes to the window, looks out at the city. Now you'll do the following, he says, looking out the glass. You'll take your salary. He nods at the money on the table. You'll go home. You'll eat well. You'll sleep. Tomorrow morning, at 10 o'clock, you'll come here again. Not through the service entrance, through the main one. You'll show your new card to security. They'll be waiting for you. He turns to her. You'll come to this office. We'll draw up a plan for the first week. We'll determine your first steps. We'll meet with key employees, the chief accountant, the head bartender, the head of security. You'll begin your training. And today you're just the owner, going home. Nothing more. He walks over to the table, takes the money, and carefully places it in a plain envelope from his drawer. He hands it to her. Your first order of business as owner? Get some rest and come back tomorrow with a clear head, because tomorrow work begins. Kennedia accepts the envelope. It's thick and heavy. She takes the blue folder with documents. She places a plastic card inside. She stands in the middle of the office, holding an envelope of money and the folder that makes her the owner of a nightclub. She feels completely lost, but also, deep inside, beneath the layer of shock and fear, a tiny, weak spark is born. A spark of something new. Not even hope. She's still afraid to hope, more like a challenge. Acceptance of reality. He said, tomorrow the work begins. And in those words, there was no threat, but a path, a clear, understandable next step. She nods, slowly but firmly. Okay, I'll come tomorrow, at 10. Jisung nods. The guard at the exit will show you out. See you tomorrow, Miss Rose. He calls her Miss Rose, the same way he called his lawyers. It sounds respectful, businesslike. Kennedia turns and walks toward the door. Her legs feel like rubber. She steps out into the hallway. The office door closes behind her with a soft click. She stands in an empty, quiet corridor. In one hand is an envelope with money that she didn't have this morning. The other is the blue folder that changed her entire life. On her chest, in the pocket of her work uniform, lies a plastic card with her new name. She takes the first step, then the second. She walks down the hallway she's swept many times, but now it seems different. She looks at the walls, the light fixtures, the doors. Everything is the same, and everything is different. She's the owner, and work starts tomorrow. Kennedia returns to her small apartment. It's a one-room apartment on the outskirts of town. Old furniture, cracks in the ceiling, the smell of neighbors. She closes the door and leans her back against it. She stands there for a few minutes, staring into space. Then she slowly places the envelope and blue folder on the kitchen table. The sound of falling papers seems very loud to her. She doesn't believe it. She can't believe it. The whole day plays out in her head like a strange movie. Morning. She cries in the pantry, knowing she's reached a dead end. Then, he appears in the doorway. Tall, cold, scary. Then, his office. Breathtaking luxury. Then, Garcia. his frightened face, words about leaving, then, money, real money on the table, then, his question, what do you know? Then, her answer, all those details she'd spilled without knowing why. Then, the crazy offer, the owner. Then, lawyers, papers, signatures. A plastic card. Kennedia takes the card and looks at it again. CEO/owner. It's her photo, her name. She's awake. She opens the envelope. She takes out a wad of cash. She's never held such a sum in her hands. She's afraid of it. She puts the money back in the envelope and puts it away on the farthest shelf of the closet. Then she sits down and opens the blue folder. She reads it. There are a lot of unfamiliar words there. Share, beneficiary, legal entity. But her name is there, everywhere. And his signature, Han Ji-sung, is next to it. She tries to eat dinner, but the food seems tasteless. She puts down her fork. Night falls. Kennedia lies down in bed. She turns off the light, but her eyes don't close. She stares at the ceiling. Her mind is racing. Questions. Millions of questions. What will she do tomorrow? What will she tell people? They all know her. They know her as the cleaning lady, as the one everyone ignores. How will they look at her now? They will laugh or get angry. They won't listen to her. What if she screws everything up? What if she makes the wrong decision and the club loses money? What if she fails? He, Ji-sung, will regret his decision. He'll take everything back, and she'll end up on the streets again. Only now, disgraced. She remembers telling him about the leaky pipe and the ice on Wednesdays. Why did she say that? It was nonsense. Now he thinks she doesn't understand anything about business. And he's right. She tosses and turns. Sleep won't come. His words echo in her head. Honesty and knowledge are not given to everyone. This is a business proposition. He didn't give her the club out of pity. He sees something in her, some resource, an opportunity. But what if he was wrong? She's scared, very scared. Much more scared than she was this morning in the pantry. Back then, it was a simple, understandable problem. No money, debt. Now, an abyss of uncertainty opens up before her. Responsibility. She looks at the glowing numbers on her alarm clock. 2 o'clock in the morning. 3, 4. She never falls asleep. She just lies in the dark and fights her fear. At 8:30, she gets up. Her head is heavy. Her eyes are sticking together. She feels exhausted. She goes into the shower. The cold water brings her back to her senses a little. She looks at herself in the mirror. She still has the same features, the same red hair, which she now tries to style a little more neatly. She doesn't look like the club owner. She looks like herself, like a tired Kennedia. Rose. What to wear? She doesn't have any business suits. She has a couple of simple dresses, jeans, and t-shirts. She chooses dark trousers and a light blouse. This is the most formal thing she owns. She looks simple, clean. She eats breakfast, even though she doesn't want it. She drinks strong coffee. Then she stands in front of the door and looks at the blue folder and envelope on the table. She takes the folder and the card. She leaves the envelope with the money at home. She leaves the house, rides the bus. Same streets, same people. No one knows that in her bag are the papers making her the owner of a nightclub. She gets off at her stop. She approaches the moon garden. During the day, it looks asleep, as always. She always entered through the service entrance, on the far side street. Today, she goes to the main entrance, to the large glass door with tinted panes. Her heart is pounding. She takes out a plastic card and holds it to the reader. Green light, a soft click. She pushes the door and steps inside. There's a security guard standing in the foyer. Not the one she knows, but a different, older one. Ivan. He's tall, with a serious face. He looks at her, and there's no recognition in his eyes. He sees simply a girl in modest clothing. "Hello, please show me your pass," he says in an even voice. Kennedia hands him her plastic card. He takes it and looks at it. His eyebrows slowly rise. He looks at the card, then at her face. Back at the card. His expression changes. The indifference disappears. A slight hesitation appears, followed by stern composure. He hands her the card and nods slightly. "Good morning, Miss Rose. Mr. Hin is waiting for you in his office. Do you know the way?" He speaks to her in a way he used to only speak to Ji-sung or important guests. Respectfully, with a detached politeness. Kennedia nods, speechless. She walks past him, deeper into the foyer. She feels his gaze on her back. She walks down the familiar hallway to Ji-sung's office. She feels like everyone is looking at her, even though there's no one around. She approaches the office. The door is ajar. She hears voices, not just Ji-sung's, some others. She knocks carefully. "Come in!" His voice rings out. Kennedia enters. There are 3 people in the office besides Jason, the accountant who counted her money yesterday. The tall man in a black shirt is Alex, the head bartender, and the stocky man in uniform is the head of security, Victor. They all turn when she enters, their faces a full range of emotions. The accountant, Ms. Jang, looks at her with cold, searching curiosity. Alex raises an eyebrow, his gaze sliding over her simple clothes, and a slight, barely perceptible smile plays at the corners of his lips. Victor looks at her with a heavy, distrustful gaze. Jisung is sitting at his desk. He nods to her. "Miss Rose, come in, have a seat." He points to the empty chair next to his desk. Not opposite, like yesterday, but next to him, as an equal. Canadia slowly walks over and sits down. She places the folder on her lap. She feels the weight of all those eyes on her. They're waiting. They know everything. Jisung has obviously already informed them, but knowing is one thing. Seeing yesterday's cleaning lady in the future executive's chair is quite another. There is a silence in the air, thick with unspoken questions and doubts. Jisung breaks the silence. His voice is as calm and commanding as ever. "As I informed you this morning, there have been changes since yesterday. Miss Kennedia, Rose is now the owner of the Moonlight Garden and your immediate supervisor. I will act as her advisor during the transition period. All current issues, reports, and decisions will be directed to her." He looks at each of them in turn. His gaze brooks no argument. "We're having a short meeting today. The purpose is to brief Ms. Rose on the current status of your areas of responsibility and to determine your priorities for the week." He turns to Kennedia. "Miss Rose, the floor is yours." All eyes are on her again. Her throat goes dry. Her heart pounds so loudly, she thinks she can hear it throughout the room. Her palms become clammy. She takes a deep breath, then another. She remembers yesterday. Remembers him listening to her in the pantry. Remembers him listening to her here when she talked about ice and dust on the speakers. He listened. To her. She opens her mouth. Her voice comes out quiet, muffled. It trembles. "Good morning." She swallows and tries to speak louder. I know this is unexpected. For everyone. For me, too. I won't pretend I know everything. I'll learn. But I also know this club. I know it from a different perspective. And I've seen problems that maybe aren't visible from here." She looks at Alex, the bartender. Her voice is still uneven, but it's clear. "Alex, ice. They deliver it on Wednesday and Sunday morning. By Sunday evening, there's not enough. By Wednesday, the surplus is gone. We need to change the schedule. Bring less on Wednesday, but add a delivery on Saturday morning or Sunday afternoon, so that there's enough by Sunday evening." Alex stops smiling. He looks at her with surprise. He knows about this problem, but he didn't expect her to know about it. He nods slowly. "Yeah, that makes sense. I'll contact the supplier." Kennedia glanced at Victor, the head of security. "Victor, the door in the utility room near the kitchen. It creaks. The guards making night patrols push it with their shoulders to keep quiet, but the sound is still audible. It needs to be lubricated, and the other doors need to be checked." Victor frowns but nods too. It's a small but concrete task. He writes something down in his notebook. She looks at the accountant. "Ms. Jang. Ms. Jang, I need a simple report. How much do we spend monthly on emergency purchases of small items? Dance floor light bulbs, faucet washers, cleaning products that suddenly run out. I suspect it's a lot, because they're bought at inflated prices from convenient suppliers when they're needed urgently. We need a systematic inventory and a regular, reliable supplier." Ms. Jang's expression turns interested. "This isn't just an abstract door problem anymore. It's a matter of money." She nods professionally. "I'll prepare an analysis for the last 6 months." Kennedia feels her voice stop shaking. She doesn't speak loudly. She speaks clearly. She addresses not everyone at once, but each one individually, with a specific, clear goal, drawn from her real-life observations. She pauses and looks at everyone. "This week, I want to meet with each department head separately, to understand how everything works and where the difficulties are. My door," she hesitates for a second, "will be open, but that's all for today. Thank you." She falls silent. The room is quiet, but this silence has a different quality now. It's less distrustful and more reflective. Jisung, who had been silently watching this whole time, gives a sign. "Okay, thank you all. Miss Jong and Alex, stay for a minute. We'll discuss the details about the ice and the report. Victor, you're dismissed." Kennedia again. this time without that heavy mistrust, but rather with acceptance of the fact, and leaves. As the door closes, Alex turns to Kennedia. About the ice, Miss Rose. The supplier is Frostco. Their manager, Artem. He usually agrees to changes, but he requires 3 days' notice, and he has a minimum order quantity. Kennedia listens. This isn't just a problem anymore. It's specific. Name, company, terms. Okay, she says. Today is Wednesday. That means we can change the schedule as early as next week. Will you contact him today and discuss it? The new schedule, less on Wednesday, but more on Saturday morning. The minimum volume. We'll take it, but we'll distribute it differently. If there are any objections, I'll talk to him. She says this confidently, because it's logical, because it solves a problem she's seen many times herself. Alex looks at her, then at Jisung. Jisung nods silently. Okay, I'll call Artem after lunch, Alex says. And Alex, Kennedia adds, remembering another detail. The speaker to the right of the DJ. It's always dusty. The DJ complains. We need the cleaners to pay special attention to it in the evening, before opening. And we need to buy protective covers for the equipment. Is that your responsibility? Alex thinks for a second, then nods. Yeah, sound equipment. Okay, I'll figure it out. Ms. Zhang discusses the details of the report with her. Kennedia listens, asking short, clarifying questions. She doesn't pretend to understand everything. She asks for clarification in simple terms. 10 minutes later, they leave. Only she and Jisung remain in the office again. Jisung looks at her. There's no smile on his face, but there's something like approval in his eyes. Business-like approval. Good start, he says simply. Concrete. To the point. You spoke about what you know. That's right. Kennedia exhales. She feels the tension of the last 24 hours ease a little. She hasn't solved all the problems. She hasn't even really started. But she took the first step. She held a meeting. She gave her first orders. And the people accepted them. She's the owner. And she started working today. Kennedia sits in her office after everyone has left. Her hands are still shaking slightly. She looks at her palms, clenches them into fists, then unclenches them. The silence now seems louder than the noise of the meeting. Questions begin to swirl in her head again, but these are different questions. Not what's going on, but what to do next. Jisung gets up from the table. Time for the next step, he says. An inspection, but not as an owner, and not as a cleaner, as a manager. He heads for the door. Kennedia, hesitating a little, follows him. They go out into the hallway. Kitchen, Jisung says, and they turn off. The kitchen is quiet before evening. The cooks are getting ready for the evening, washing vegetables, cutting meat, setting out dishes. Seeing Jason, they straighten up slightly, but continue working. Their glances flicker over Kennedia, filled with the same curiosity and doubt as Alex and Victor. Jisung doesn't introduce her. He simply goes to the head chef, Marco, who's overseeing the operation. Marco, last night's scraps, Jisung says. Marco, a large man in a white coat, nods and opens the refrigerator. He takes out a container. Here, Hansam. The usual. Leftover side dishes, a few uneaten appetizers. Jisung takes the container and places it on the table in front of Kennedia. Look, he says. Kennedia watches. She sees this waste every day. Mashed potatoes, rice, pieces of meat, salads. She threw them out. I know that, she says quietly. What do you see? Jisung asks, his voice neutral. Food that hasn't been eaten needs to be thrown away, says Kennedia. Why didn't they eat her? Jisung continues. Kennedia shrugs. The portions are big. Either the guests ordered a lot and couldn't finish it, or they ordered something new and didn't like it. That's right, says Jisung. Large portions. That's the standard Garcia set. He thought it would make the club look generous, but it leads to losses. He turns to Marco. Starting today, you're reducing the standard portions of side dishes and appetizers by 15%. Prices remain the same. Keep track of what's going poorly and what's going well. Report weekly. Marco nods and makes a note on the board. Got it. And this, Jisung points to the container, isn't just trash. This is money we're throwing away. Now you see it. They leave the kitchen. Kennedia feels something click in her head. She always saw these leftovers as part of her job, cleaning up, throwing them away. Now she sees them as a business problem, a problem that can be solved. They walk to the bar area. It's empty during the day. Alex is checking something in the storage room behind the bar. Alex, Jason calls. The most popular cocktails. 3 options. Alex, without thinking, answers. Moon dust, dark side, orange dawn. Ingredients, says Jisung. For the moon dust, gin, elderflower liqueur, lime juice, and egg white. For the dark side, dark rum, cola, and lime. It's empty by the end of the week. Why? Jisung continues. Because they're only used in these cocktails, Alex replies. We buy them in small batches, but there aren't enough on weekends. So we need to increase our supply of these ingredients, Kennedy says, looking at Alex. Not all of them, but these two. Or find a more profitable supplier for them. Exactly, says Jisung. Management isn't about controlling everything at once. It's about finding bottlenecks and strengthening them. You named 2 weak points yourself. They continue on into the hall. Jisung stops at the VIP area in the far corner. That one. Here, he says. You said it wasn't cleaned well. Kennedy nods. She walks over to the sofa and runs her hand over the upholstery. She feels a slight stickiness. She knows what it is. A mixture of spilled drinks and poor cleaning. Yes, she says. It needs a deep cleaning. And maybe a different cleaning solution. The one they're using isn't working. Jisung looks at her. Who's in charge of cleaning the furniture? Kennedy pauses. An outside firm handles this. The manager calls them. Well, Garcia used to call them. I saw their business cards in his office. So your job is to find this company. Check the contract. See if they have any competitors with better prices or quality. And make sure they clean exactly as they should. They walk around the entire room. Jisung asks her questions about the lighting, about the table layout, about where guests most often linger and where they pass by. Kennedy answers. She talks about what she's seen hundreds of times, but now she talks about it differently, not as an observer, but as someone who can change it. After the examination, they return to the office. Kennedy feels tired, but her mind is clear. She's beginning to understand. He didn't just give her the club, he's giving her tools, a method, to observe, to analyze, to ask questions, to make decisions. Now it's time for practice, says Jisung, sitting down at the table. You told Alex to discuss the schedule change with the ice supplier. That's your assignment, so you need to oversee its implementation. How? Asks Kennedy. Ask, says Jisung. At the end of the day, ask Alex. Did you contact the supplier? What was the result? If they didn't, ask why. If they did, but problems arose, resolve them together. Management isn't about throwing orders into the air. It's a vicious cycle, task to execution to report to adjustments. He hands her a clean notepad and pen. Write it down. All the tasks. Everything you assigned. Everything you promised to check. The date, the person, the essence, the status. Kennedy picks up a notebook. She opens to the first page and writes, Ice, Alex. Reschedule delivery. Due Wednesday evening. Minor purchases report. Miss Jang. Due by Friday. VIP zone. Find a cleaning company. Check the contract. Okay, Jisung says, looking at her notes. Now, next step, staff. He takes a list of all the club's employees out of his desk drawer. There are about 40 of them. This evening, before opening, you'll gather everyone for 5 minutes. In the main hall, Kennedy looks at the list, then at him. What will I tell them? The truth, says Jason. Briefly, what happened? That Garcia was fired for misconduct, that you're now in charge, that you intend to restore order, and that your door is open to suggestions and concerns. Nothing more. Don't make promises you can't keep. Simply state your presence and intentions. Kennedy feels a spasm of fear in her chest again. 40 people. They will all be looking at her. I can't, she blurts out. You can, he says simply. Because it's necessary. People need to see their leader. They need to hear his voice. Otherwise, there will be rumors, speculation, panic. Briefly, clearly, like at a meeting, he looks at his watch. You have 4 hours to get ready, to walk around the club again and see it with your own eyes. To think through 2 or 3 phrases. I'll be there, but you'll do the talking. He stands up, signaling the end of the conversation. I'll be in my office. If you have any questions, come by. Kennedy is left alone. She sits with a notepad in her hands, looking at the list of names. 40 people. She knows many of them by sight. Waitresses Lena and Olya, Coat room attendant Layla, security guard Sergey. They are all now her subordinates. That's a strange word. She gets up and leaves the office again. Now she's alone. She goes into the hall and sits down at one of the tables. She looks at the empty stage, the dance floor, the bar. She tries to imagine herself standing there, in front of everyone. What will she say? She opens her notebook and starts writing on a blank page. Then she crosses it out. She writes again. She looks for simple words, the simplest ones. An hour passes. She walks around the club again, but this time, she's not looking at the dust or spills. She's looking at the people. She goes into the kitchen and asks Marco how the new batches are going. She goes to see Alex and asks if he's called the ice supplier yet. Alex says he has, and the supplier agrees, but wants to meet to discuss a new contract. Kennedia says, her voice firmer than she expected, schedule a meeting for tomorrow or the day after. I'm here. Alex looks at her with new interest and nods. She goes down to the utility room where the cleaning supplies are kept. Another cleaner, an older woman named Molly, is working there. Molly looks at Kennedia with wide eyes. Rumors are already spreading. Molly, Kennedia says, VIP area cleaners. Are they effective? Molly shrugs. We work with what we have. If they were better, would it be easier? Asks Kennedia. Of course it's easier. These cocktail stains won't come out. Okay, I'll take care of it, Kennedia says, writing down in her notebook. 4. New upholstery cleaning products. Request from Molly. Every little conversation, every note in the notebook makes what's happening more and more real. This isn't a dream. This is work, her work. Evening is approaching. The staff is starting to arrive. Kennedia sees them whispering, glancing at her quickly. She feels like she's under a microscope, but now she has a plan. A notepad, and a few simple phrases on a blank page. 15 minutes before the official start of the workday, Jisung leaves his office. He finds Kennedia in the hall. Ready? He asks. She clutches a notepad and a piece of paper with the abstract in her hand. Her palms are sweating. Ready! He nods and walks to the edge of the shallow stage where the DJ usually stands. He raises his hand. A soft hum fills the room. Then silence falls. All 40 people gather in front of him. Their faces are turned toward the stage. To him, and to her, who stands slightly to the side. Attention, says Jisung. His voice easily fills the room without a microphone. A short meeting. 5 minutes. The floor is now open to the new head of Moon Garden, Miss Kennedia. Rose. He takes a step back, leaving her alone at the edge of the stage. All eyes are now glued to her. 40 pairs of eyes. In them, she reads the same things. Distrust, surprise, skepticism, hope. Kennedia steps forward. She looks not into their eyes, but slightly higher, at the walls behind their heads. She unfolds her piece of paper. Her hands tremble. She takes a deep breath and begins to speak.